Jumpin' In on Manx Radio.
With Howard and Chris Kane.
Hello.
Good evening.
And welcome. Here we are once again, homing in on the Christmas jazz special, no doubt. It's Jumpin' In with myself, H.
And me, Chris. Yes, welcome along to a chilly start to December's edition of Jumpin' In. Where has the year gone? Well, perhaps it's better to forget that and look forward, I think, don't you? To what will hopefully be a post-vaccine year of festivals, travel and friends, which we've all missed over the last 12 months. Speaking of which, there's just 20 more sleeps if you're counting, which means there's no time to waste. So what's been behind your advent calendar doors this week, H?
Well, I'm going back one. I almost played last week, actually, in our trumpet special, and going back to the 80s with Don Cherry live in Bracknell. Chris Potter has been live on his own and recording everything, it seems, and a birthday boy as well with a very appropriate album.
And from me, well, a ringer, a speaker and a buzzer. But before that, let's see if you all made the most of the last couple of hours of daylight on Thursday and Friday with your sledges. Here's Stan Sulzman with Snow. Well, it seemed appropriate, not least because of the title, Snow, but the album it was taken from, Birthdays, recorded to celebrate Stan's 50th birthday, with all the compositions written and arranged by Stan, with a dream of a big band made up of some of the best names in the country: Derek Watkins, Pat White, Henry Lowther, Noel Langley, Kenny Wheeler, Mark Bassey, Pete Burchill, Jeremy Price, Nicole Thompson, Richard Henry, Sarah Williams, Ray Worley, Nigel Hitchcock, Martin Hathaway, Julian Siegel, Pete Hurt, Mick Foster, John Paracelli, Frank Ricotti, Pete Sabaton at the piano, Tim Wells and Paul Clarvis at the drums. And, by the way, it was actually Stan's 72nd birthday last week, so happy birthday to him.
Absolutely, yeah, and still playing well, and we had the great pleasure of seeing him with the Neon Orchestra 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah, all rammed into the 606 Club. There were almost as many people in the band as there were in the club, I think. But a wonderful sound they're making, a really nice chap as well. We had a little chat with him, which I think we featured that on Jumpin In a year or two back.
We did.
You did indeed. Well, you're saying birthdays, and that's exactly what I've got. A birthday boy. December the 5th, 1971, saw the birth of this man, Augusto Proda. Again, we've had the pleasure of seeing a couple of times in the Brew Jazz Week, as it's known now, the Brussels Jazz Weekend. He's Italian, but sort of lives around the Brussels area. He was intending to do a big band the last time we spoke to him, but we've seen him several times in solo, trio and quartet fashions. He's at the freer side of things, but none of the worse for that. Here he is with a regular quartet with the wonderful Ben Slees on alto sax, a fantastic sax player we featured a few times, plays a lot around the Liège and Brussels scene. Manolo Cabras on bass and the wonderful Marek Patrman on the drums, and it's their rendition of a Paul Blade track, I think it is, Blah, Blah, Blah. birthday boy Augusto Paroda, leading the quartet from the piano there, born in 1971. How old does that make him?
Old enough.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
It makes him 40.
Thank you.
For sake.
It must make him a bit older than that, mustn't it? 1971? It's going to make him
50 rather.
It's going to make him older than 40.
50. 49 or 50.
Yeah, that'd be about right. Good stuff in any case. With the very appropriately named album, A Turkey is Better Reason. Not if you're a turkey, I suppose it's more appropriate, but it does seem to be coming up towards Christmas. As I said, Augusto leading from the piano. Ben Sleece, I've got another album of his to feature at some stage. Great sax player. Manolo Cabra Space, Marek Patraman at the drums from October 2010.
And now a debut album from a young British violinist, Dominic Ingham. And although this is the first album in his own name, Dominic's been a regular on the scene as a vocalist and violinist in trombonist brothers Rory's fusion band, Bonsai. Does that ring a bell with you?
Only a small one.
No, it doesn't ring any bell at all, let's be honest. But it was formerly known as Jam Experiment, which might ring a bell because we saw them a few years ago, back in 2014, in fact, at the London Jazz Festival. Nonetheless, here's a track from his latest album, Phones. Phones, taken from violinist Dominic Ingham, I beg his pardon, debut album Role Models. And very good it is too. Dominic says that whilst Didier Lockwood was an initial inspiration, he hasn't actually listened to other violinists' records for years, rather taking his lead from the likes of Pat Metheny and Mike Brecker. Not a bad point to take inspiration from. On Role Models, he's put together a top-flight quintet of young British players with drummer and percussionist Johnny Mansfield, although here heard on vibes throughout the album, Dave Swan on piano, Will Satch on the bass, and Boz Martin Jones, another good name for the records, on the drums.
Buzz Martin Jones, that is a great name for the drums, isn't it? You're listening to Jumpin In, of course, here on Manx Radio with myself, H, and Chris with you as well, bringing you all the best in modern and contemporary jazz from around the world. And this one is, it's from the great BBC jazz legends. I don't think they've made them anymore now, but you see them kicking around, picking them up, but there's a whole load of them, and they're all really good. Some great jazz festivals, some great live recordings. I'm pleased to say we're in the audience for this one, so listen out, see if you can hear some really bad wolf whistling or clapping or woo-woos or something along these lines. It's live at the Bracknell Jazz Festival in 1986. I almost tried to squeeze this last week into the trumpet special, but we ran out of time. But yeah, memories of much happier times, jazz-wise, it has to be said. And yeah, this is Chopin. Hey, terrific stuff indeed, yes. We're there somewhere. We're there somewhere in that audience, clapping away at the Bracknell Jazz Festival, July 1986. With Don Cherry and the boys there. Really was a fantastic concert. I do remember that one very much indeed. And what a lineup as well. You got the great Ed Blackwell finishing off on drums there. No longer with us, of course, a long time gone. Don himself, no longer with us, on his traditional pocket trumpet. He's also on the Doosan Goonie and some of the tracks, that African hunter's guitar he was so fond of. Carlos Ward, wonderful alto sax player, often very underrated. I can't remember whether Carlos is still with us now. I must double check on that one. Mark Elias bass, and again, also sadly gone a year or two now, the great Nanya Vasconcelos on berimbau percussion and drums. In that case, he's on shakers and percussion and such like, and he does one of his great berimbau tracks. If you do see that kicking around every time in a second-hand bin, and I think it would have to be a second-hand bin or online or whatever, check it out. It's a great one. BBC Jazz Legends, Don Cherry, and they did a whole load of those. Oscar Peterson at the Barbican, Dizzy Gillespie's 70th Big Band at the Royal Festival Hall, Art Blakey at Ronnie Scott's, etc., etc. They're all great.
There's a whole raft of those BBC things, including a lot of other programmes like John Peel's sessions, which include a lot of crossover jazz and jazz rock as well. And what a festival we sadly miss. Bracknell, one of the great festivals in the UK. Now, the question, but does it swing, is one that often comes up when we're discussing modern jazz. Well, in the case of Russian drummer Sasha Mashin,
Good name.
I think I'll let you decide. Here's the hidden voice.
Hi, this is Maria Schneider, and you're listening to Jumpin' In with H and Chris on Manx Radio.
Well, there you go. If you're wondering what to do in lockdown, Chris Potter had the answer for you there. What you do is you make an entire album with just yourself playing and no one else, which is exactly what that is in the case of There Is a Tide on the Edition label. Chris Potter, an album, or at least a track there, he calls, I was going to call it Anchors Away, called Drop Your Anchor Down. And yeah, in essence, he was sort of on his own. And so he set about making an album where he plays everything. He plays sax, he plays bass, he plays drum, he plays keyboards, he does the samples, he does the whole lot. A curate's egg, it has to be said, having listened to it once or twice. But well, if nothing else, you've got to admire the man's skill. Probably best on the reeds overall, but not surprising, that's his main instrument. But to make an album like that, and you probably wouldn't know if you played it, and some different sort of vibes as well, worth checking out.
And before that, the question was, if you remember, does it swing? And I think it was a resounding yes for St.
Petersburg.
Petersburg.
That one, isn't it? Yeah.
For St. Petersburg, can't even say it, born drummer Sasha Mashin, another name for our list of great jazz names, with his international sextet, Happy Synapse. The Hidden Voice, written by alto player Rosio Giuliano. We've featured him on the programme before, with Dmitry Mospan on tenor, Josh Evans on the trumpet, Benito Gonzalez at the piano, Maka Novikov on bass, and Sasha on the drums. If you like your jazz straight up with plenty of drive, then that would not disappoint. Definitely one for the car, but hang on to your hat.
Absolutely so, yeah. Really nice stuff indeed, and worth playing for the name of the guy then. Sasha Mashin. Brilliant. Here's another one from, Happier Times. I picked this up in the pop-up Blue Note shop last year at the London Jazz Festival. Will we get there in 2021? Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, Consummation. Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, Consummation, Pop-Up Blue Note 2019. Let's hope we can get there next year.
Indeed. Well, that's just about this for this edition of Jumping In, but we will have plenty of great jazz between now and the holidays, including the old favourite, the Canes Jazz Christmas Party, and a show or two perhaps looking back over the year's best releases. But for now, here's Neil Cowley, a man we have seen many times with his trio, and whilst always breathtaking, you were left asking yourself, can he do quiet though? Well, during an extended and reflective lockdown, he's released a series of EPs reinventing himself. We'll leave you with Brush for Bees. See you next week.
Be good.
Bye for now.
Thank you.